This is Jaguars Happy Hour. Jaguars Happy Hour is brought to you by the St. Johns River Water Management District. And now, a guy who's been known to indulge in a draft or two, or three, J.P. Shatrick.
And welcome in. It's Jaguars Happy Hour, brought to you by the St. Johns River Water Management District. Florida's water, it's worth saving. Busy hour ahead on NFL Draft Opening Night 2024. We'll go to Brian Sexton in Detroit in about 5 minutes from Draft Central to get the latest from downtown Detroit ahead of the draft, round one this evening. And then a little later, about 4:30, Bucky Brooks in Los Angeles joining us. We're on 1010XL AM, Jaguars.com, Jaguars YouTube. J.P. Shatrick with Jeff Lageman and Tony Baselli. And here we are on this beautiful night inside Everbank Stadium ahead of the Duval Draft Party 2024. Should be an epic night, guys.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to it. The draft represents a lot of hope for every football team that there is tonight. All 32 of them are hoping that they're going to be able to get better. Every team's feeling really good about themselves. They'll be even feeling better for the most part about themselves after tonight.
What do you think, Bo?
Well, I think we got a great night. How about the weather?
Weather's great.
I mean,
Perfect.
It's just perfect. It's we got the stadium set up for the fans, and I think Jeff's right. I mean, this is the time of year where everyone is hopeful, and you're trying to find that piece or multiple pieces that kind of help you improve over whatever you did last year, whether that's, trying to make the playoffs, trying to win a division, whatever that goal or standard is as a fan base. Ultimately, it's to win the whole dang thing. And this is one of those things where this is one of those dates on the calendar. You're like, okay, it's about everyone can get excited. So during the season, every weekend only half the teams are excited at the end of the weekend. But tonight, going in, everyone will be excited, and then there'll be the handful of fan bases that'll be booing with the pick. But most will think they got their
booed.
guy. Yeah.
I remember. I got booed.
I remember watching that.
Yeah, but I think everybody got booed for being a pick with New York Jets.
Yeah,
but,
that's a tradition.
But the perspective that we're given is kind of one from being a fan of the team, and also maybe a little bit of a look of somebody that's a little bit more of a fan of a team like me and Tony. But from the perspective of the players, tonight is anxiety ridden. You don't know where you're going to go unless you're Caleb Williams or Jalen Daniels or May. A lot of these guys have a pretty good idea that they're going to go at the top of the draft. But once you get past that, everybody else is like, I don't know what my future holds. And a lot of guys are also looking at, I don't know if Tony did this, but I did. I think everybody does at some point when you're a potential draft pick, is you're looking at what the financial future is going to hold. And, where am I going to be, number one? And what are they going to ask me to do? And then what does the money look like on the slot that I'm going to get picked? And that's, and there's a lot of fun involved in that, but there's a lot of anxiety.
Yeah, there is anxiety. There's no doubt about it. And depending where you get picked, that anxiety can –
Well, you didn't have much anxiety. It was second overall pick.
It was quick. It was a quick anxiety.
I was 14. I had to wait a little while.
But even the guys who, yes, the first round's tonight, but guys who are going to go in the second, third round, and there, some guys who are going to end up in the second round are hoping that they're going to get picked tonight. They'll be disappointed. Guys who thought maybe they were going to be a second rounder get pulled up, their excitement. But I think what it also represents is the fulfillment of a bunch of guys' dreams and the goals that they have set. I think all of us who play, or most of us who played in this game, as a kid, you dreamed about doing it. And this is what you wanted to do. And you had success in high school, then you go to college, and you have success in college. And whether you're a first-rounder or a mid-rounder, you have a sense you're going to get drafted. And this is the weekend where all the hard work, the long journey to get there is kind of fulfilled. And you wake up, whether it's after tonight or after this weekend, like, I am now an NFL player. And it starts a whole new journey. And I think that's also what this represents tonight on the player side.
Now let's touch on this. We've got the whole hour here to get to the needs and what they could do at 17, moves and possibility. But in general, Trent Baalke and the personnel staff did a lot of work in free agency to fill some holes with some veteran players. Eric Armstead comes in on the defensive line, Mitch Morris, just to name a couple of secondary players. So in your opinion, how does that set up the needs now for the Jaguars going into this draft? What are maybe 1, 2, and 3?
Well, I think for the most part, you did a good job in free agency of filling those holes. And I think every team wants to do that for the most part, is fill the holes that you have going into the draft so that you can end up picking the best available player. The one hole that the Jaguars did not plug, I don't think, in free agency was the defensive back spot. When I say defensive back, I'm talking about, for the most part, corner. You know, this is a passing league. This is a nickel league. This is a dime league. You need as many corners as you possibly can. And you released Darius Williams, and you replaced him with a guy from Baltimore. Okay, I understand that. But even last year with Darius Williams, you were searching for that guy to be the third sure thing, and you really didn't have it. And it ended up being a whole bunch of different guys that played at some point. So I think that's probably the number one need that really jumps out is corner. And then Tony and I both kind of had the same opinion. We felt that this team needed to get better and more physical up front with the offense and defensive lines, and I'll let Tony speak more to the defensive line. But I still think there's a glaring need for this football team on the defensive side, whether it's inside or outside. The more dogs that you can get to get after the quarterback, the better off that you're going to be. And I don't care if it's edge or inside.
Yeah, I think they addressed nickel. Savage, I mean, at the end of the day, yes, his position says safety, but if you go watch him at Green Bay, he was a nickel player. I mean, that's really where he spent a bunch of his time, and that's more of his build as well. They need the outside corner. Jeff's right about that with Darius Williams and coming back. I still go back to, if you look at this team last year, where was the biggest void, or where did they struggle the most? And in my opinion, that isn't being physical on both lines of scrimmage. And I'm going to focus on the offensive line because we were one of the worst teams in third and short. We were not very good in the goal line. Our yards per carry dwindled as the year went on. And we struggled to control line of scrimmage, especially against some of the more physical teams we played in the back half of the year.
Which there's a number of them in the division.
And there's a number of those in the division. So if you look at that group, I like the Mitch Morse, the signing, and he's a veteran, hard-nosed guy who knows how to play the game. I think that's a good addition at the center. But it's pretty much this, usual cast of characters besides that. And we are not a big group of people as far as offensive line goes if you look across the league. And I think that's your starting five. And so I don't think Trent and Doug will go in the first round with an offensive lineman, but I still think over draft weekend, that is a position group that you have to build depth, young guys, big physical guys on the offensive line, as well as the defensive line. I agree with Jeff. Eric Armstead, great signing. But Eric Armstead is also highly productive, very good player, but also coming off injuries.
And getting up there.
And getting an age. And so, how long can he perform at the level? I hope for a long time. And if we can get, 3 years, a little bit like Calais gave, awesome. Because he's a top-notch player. But still,
I'm not shutting
you
the
need
door.
Bodies.
I'm not shutting the door on offensive line, though.
In round one.
In round one, you're not.
No, I'm not.
We'll come back to that in just a little bit.
By the way, I like it.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
I know.
I'm with you.
Always with me when it comes to
you are.
drafting
I'm
offensive
with
linemen.
you. I just don't think that's where they're going to go.
Whether you need air, electric, or plumbing service, Donovan is always a good call, and they've been trusted by customers for almost 40 years. Trust them to deliver fast, reliable service to your home. 1010XLAM, Jaguars.com, Jaguars YouTube, JP Shadrick, Jeff Lageman, Tony Baselli. We'll hear from Bucky Brooks in about 20 minutes or so. Let's go to downtown Detroit, Michigan. Brian Sexton is standing by at Draft Central, and it's been a long time coming for the city of Detroit. Brian, good afternoon.
Hey, how are you guys? Let me tell you, obviously this is a town that's very proud of the Lions the last couple of seasons, and everywhere you look there's a sea of lion blue. I'll let you guess what most Lions fans have said to us and our crew when they've seen the Jaguar logo, right? Thanks for Hutchinson. They're a little spicy. They have a lot to say. So it's a kaleidoscope of NFL fans here. The draft, it left New York after the 2014 season and went to Chicago and Philly and Dallas and Nashville, and you guys know it's become an epic event. I mean, fans just flood in from all over the country. It feels sort of like a mini Super Bowl week in terms of the events and the people and the places. This place is going to be hopping tonight.
Well, Brian, it looks like the weather in Detroit is just custom made for a little outdoor event in the draft. It looks like everybody is light jacket and the weather and everything else looks to be good and the skies are blue.
Listen, the NFL yesterday was worrying about it because it was 40 degrees with a wind chill that felt like 30, and it was as gray as could be. It felt exactly like you'd expect the upper Midwest to be in late April. And, of course, with the draft going to Green Bay next year, it wasn't looking too good. This is a Chamber of Commerce day as folks have filed in. And I have to tell you, we were at the player event yesterday with the prospects, a lot of national media there. And all the talk here is that the Jaguars are going to get a shot at one of those two corners. There's two teams to watch, Philadelphia, which currently is behind the Jaguars, and the Colts, which currently are 2 spots in front of the Jaguars, just depending on how the board rolls out with quarterbacks. If Michael Penix goes in the top 15 picks, it's likely that one of these two kids, either Quinion Mitchell or Terrion Arnold, will be sitting there at 17 if that's the angle the Jaguars want to go. I had the chance to talk to both of them yesterday. They're impressive young men, both Floridians, by the way. Terrion Arnold from St. John Paul II High School in Tallahassee, and Mitchell from Williston, Florida, about 20 miles south of Gainesville. So both of them are eager to come home. Both of them possess the sort of qualities that can play press, even if neither one of them played press predominantly in college. And they're thought to be the top two corners. Right behind them, there's a surge right now for Cooper DeJean, who is one of those Swiss Army knife guys, and he ran faster than both of the Alabama cornerbacks at the Combine. And then Nate Wiggins from Clemson, who I was told yesterday is a guy that probably finds his way into the bottom of the first round. Even though he's only 175 pounds, he's got blazing speed, ran a 4.28, and most NFL teams think he's a guy that can recover if he gets beat off the line of scrimmage. So all the conversation here regarding the Jaguars and everything between about 15 and 20 has been corner.
Brian, every draft weekend, there's a buzz or there's a story developing, guys falling, rising. What are you hearing in Detroit? Any big news coming over the last 24 to 48 hours?
No, really, Tony, the story has been the quarterbacks. You figure there's 4 that are taken near the top 10, and then does the kid from Washington, Penix Jr., is he the guy that goes? And the story is he's probably going to go 13 to the Raiders, who don't want to miss a chance. They don't want to get cute and back up into the first round and take a chance on losing him. There's 3 teams that everybody's looking at to see if they might make noise and move up at quarterback, and those are the Giants are 1, the Minnesota Vikings are 2, and then the 3rd team is the Denver Broncos. All of them are in the quarterback market. They're really the ones that are the tipping points. But we've been to these drafts where there are players who have fallen hard on draft night, and there's no story brewing, at least not at this point, about somebody who is not going to get drafted tonight. And by the way, it's interesting, there's only 13 players here. The number has dropped the last couple of years post-COVID, but it's only 13, which is a really low number for a league that's used to having a full stage and players walking across and embracing the commissioner. It's going to be a little light tonight.
Well, part of the reason for that is, I remember when I was, got invited to New York before I knew where I was going to pick, my biggest fear was, and I think guys watch the draft and they see guys sitting there, camera on them, sliding out of the first round. You talk about being miserable.
That's not the fear anymore.
You think it's the money?
It's the money.
You think they're getting paid to go other places?
And I'm being totally honest here. Okay, you're putting on, Brian, and you probably would agree with me. The NFL is putting on one heck of a production that's generating great TV ratings and attracting these first-round pick players, or trying to attract them to the event in Detroit. They have never paid the players in the past. They've just paid for their expenses and not first-class airfare. Why would you not go ahead and pay the players to be there at an event like this to even generate bigger TV ratings? I don't quite get it.
They gave me first-class tickets to New York.
Well,
Did they?
Yes.
You got a good agent.
Yeah.
Well, you're 6'7".
But did you get paid?
No, but
Pay the guys. Pay the guys. But the biggest story of the draft, and Brian, you hit it right on the head, it's going to be the quarterback situation.
Yeah.
And that's really good for the Jaguars, because if all of a sudden at 17 they've had 6 quarterbacks that get drafted ahead of them, that's going to push a boatload of talent down to them to where they're going to have the pick of the litter. Now, whether it's 6 or 5 or whatever that number is, the fact is that it will be at least 4, in my opinion, could be 6, which would give the Jaguars a lot of options at 17.
Well, the key player there is Penix going to the Raiders, because if he goes there at 13, it means one of those corners is likely to slide through, or probably both, because there is a huge swell for the edge rusher, Latu from UCLA, another guy that I spent some time with yesterday. Huge personality, a great story overcoming the neck injury. And, talking to Charles Davis yesterday, says clearly the best pass rusher with the most moves in the draft.
Love him. Love Latu.
Of course you do, and we've heard that for weeks on this program. Final thought, Bri. What do you think tonight? What do you want tonight?
Well, I want an offensive lineman. You've got two tackles next year that are coming off of their contracts. And Tony, listen, and Jeff, you look at these drafts very carefully. This is the best offensive line draft, at least at the top, that I've seen in my 30 years covering the draft. There are at least 10 guys that belong in the first round, and it doesn't matter whether you're talking about tackle or guard or center. I love the kid from Washington, Troy Faonatu. I think I've got that right. I had to say it really slow. He's got a guy, you're talking about a guy with tremendous ability to play all over. I had one guy in Dallas tell me that he believes he's Zach Martin. Well, you were alluding to the fact that last year at the point of attack, we were so ineffective at converting third down and short. Who doesn't need Zach Martin? I would love to see that kid show up in Jacksonville, but it just looks like the convergence of need and value is going to be at corner.
Well, he's a guard.
Well, I don't care. That Faonatu kid, that's the type of guy who moves people.
Yeah,
he's a big physical
6'4", doesn't have the length for a tackle though.
But he's athletic.
Super
he's
athletic.
Wide. He's a tough dude. And Brian, I'm with you. Whether it's the tackle,
he's got a 34-inch arm and a 77-inch wingspan. I think
fine.
He's got enough length to play. But here's what I know. He won the Morris Award. And Tony, who gets the Morris Award every year?
Best offensive lineman in the Pac-12.
Yeah,
did you win that?
I did win that.
He was the last winner of it, apparently.
No, but
I think maybe.
Well, Brian, to your point, I
led
think
you to that one, but it
It
works.
was perfect. I'm with Brian. This is a big man's game. You can have all the skills, and I'm not saying we don't need corner and everything else like this, but this is one thing I know. If you control the line of scrimmage on offense, boy, the receivers are better, the running back's better, and your quarterback's better. And if you can control the line of scrimmage on defense, hit the quarterback, those corners get really good.
Really good.
Yeah, Brian, thanks for the report from Detroit. We'll talk to you in the pre-draft show at 7:30 a little bit later tonight. Thanks very much. Brian Sexton joining us from Draft Central in Detroit, Michigan. Plenty ahead. We'll come back and discuss Trent Baalke's trade history in draft. It's significant. This is Jaguars Happy Hour, brought to you by the St. Johns River Water Management District. Florida's water. It's worth saving.
What's the best part about lawn care during the winter? You can give it a rest. Lawns only need watering up to once a week. Really, that's it. Using less water means you're saving time and money that you can put towards something else. Before you run your sprinklers, remember, give it a rest and only water up to once a week. For more information, visit waterlessflorida.com.
Don't make a bad call when it comes to servicing your home. Cooling off with a baby pool in the house to fix your air conditioning problem is a bad call. Trying to catch a wave in a flooded bathroom is a bad call. Using a burning electrical panel to make s'mores is a bad call. The next time something goes wrong, make a good call to Donovan.
Whether you need air, electric, or plumbing service, Donovan is always a good call. It's why we've been trusted by our customers for almost 40 years and why you can trust us to deliver fast, reliable service to your home. Donovan, always a good call.
Visit DonovanAC.com today.
Get out and go to the spring sales event at your local Ford dealer. Don't miss low financing or big cash back on a large selection of Ford trucks or SUVs. Go start the job and finish it with a great deal on America's best-selling trucks, Ford F-150 and Super Duty. Or bring the whole crew and hit the road, go off-road, or take the back roads in a new Ford Bronco, Bronco Sport, or Explorer. All designed to keep you going. Get out and go to the spring sales event at your local Ford dealer today. Based on 1977 to 2023 CY total sales.
The Jaguars bring performance, strength, and passion to every play. And you'll find the same when you bank with Everbank. Open an Everbank Performance Savings account and score serious savings. See what you could earn at everbank.com/Jaguars. Everbank. Advantage you. member FDIC, and the official bank of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Since 2014, there's been only one official home builder of the Jaguars, Dreamfinders Homes. With quality-built homes and a speedy move-in process, we're in 20-plus communities in the best locations across Northeast Florida. Dreamfinders Homes is everywhere you want to live. So get off the sidelines, Jags fans, and get into the game. Let Dreamfinders help you navigate your home purchase and offer great interest rates. Visit DreamfindersHomes.com for all your move-in ready homes and step up your game.
Don't get sacked by a no-name propane rookie at Jacksonville. Draft an all-star and switch to AmeriGas, the official propane provider of the Jacksonville Jaguars and the homes and businesses who know it was always the Jags. Show off your Duval pride at your next tailgate with a Jaguars grill tank from AmeriGas. To find an AmeriGas exchange location near you or to order a propane fill-up for your home or business, visit AmeriGas.com/Jacksonville-Jaguars or call 844-PRO-JAGS.
Jaguars Happy Hour brought to you by the St. Johns River Water Management District. Florida's water, it's worth saving. J.P. Shadrick, Jeff Lageman, Hall of Famer Tony Baselli. Jaguars Happy Hour continues on 1010XL AM, Jaguars.com, Jaguars YouTube. Bucky Brooks in about 10 minutes or so from Los Angeles. You've seen his name all over NFL Network with his top 5 position rankings and mock drafts, and we'll get his final thoughts ahead of this draft in about 10 minutes' time. We mentioned it going into the break. So Trent Baalke, of course, has been the general manager in San Francisco and now in Jacksonville. He took over the 2010 San Francisco draft very late in the process. The GM was out. He had to move in. He actually made the picks in 2010 there. Became the GM officially, I think, right after, maybe a week before the draft. So he was involved from 2010 to 2016 in San Francisco, and, of course, 21 through 23 and this year in Jacksonville. 4 times Baalke has traded up involving first-round picks, 2010, 2013, 2016 with San Fran, and 22 with the Jaguars. That was up from the second round to get Devin Lloyd. 3 times he's traded down involving first-round picks. 2015, traded 2 spots down to get Eric Armstead, of all people. And then last year did it twice in the first round and ended up with Anton Harrison. 27 total in-draft trades in his career as a general manager in 10 previous drafts. So especially on days 2 and 3, he's not afraid to move if the value's there.
Well, and the lesson to be learned, because, you know, there's some names associated with those trades, whether it be up or down, is that when he traded up, he didn't do so good. If you look at the value, Anthony Davis was an offensive tackle that didn't last very long in the National Football League. Eric Reed, defensive back, was was a good player, but I mean, to trade up from 31 to 18, that's an expensive price to pay, and I don't think that was the value. And then Joshua Garnett, you know who he is?
No clue.
I don't either. But then you look at the trade downs, which is Eric Armstead.
Great pick.
And then Anton Harrison, I think a really good player. You know, so the lesson there is, and he said this at the draft press conference, he said that, look, the analytics will tell you that the value is not there if you're trying to trade up. And so, in my opinion, you don't look to trade up ever, in my opinion, unless you're trying to get a franchise quarterback. That's got to be the exception.
Yeah, all bets are off at that point.
The only way I trade up is if there's a guy that you think is an all-pro type player. Like, for instance, if you had a big need for an offensive tackle, and you felt like Alt from Notre Dame was a future, multiple-time Pro Bowler, all-pro type player, okay, you go trade up for a premium position, which left tackle is, or a premium pass rusher that you think is going to be, Nick Bosa or, Garrett or something like that. But those are rarities. Like, you have to really be in the right position.
And don't we always think that when you drafted them, though?
No, but there's certain guys know. There's certain guys that
But it's a percentage game.
That's what I'm saying. That is the exception.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, franchise quarterback would be one as well. But most of the time, the difference between, like, this is a good wide receiver class. The difference between Harrison and the third or fourth neighbors and, the kid from Washington. Odunze. I'm not saying someone's going to be better than the others. But as you're betting and you're projecting looking forward, if you can get the third-rated guy where you sit, is it worth jumping up to go get that first-rated guy?
Great point. I mean, that's for me, the draft. Get as many picks as you possibly can, especially
because it's not a science.
It is not a science, and it's a percentage game. I mean, I remember a few years back, Chris Polian was working with the Jaguars in the role of like assistant general manager at one point, and his dad, Hall of Famer Bill Polian. And Bill Polian essentially built 2 franchises and took them to Super Bowls, the Buffalo Bills and then the Indianapolis Colts. And
with the Panthers before that, too?
And the Carolina Panthers. I mean, this
expansion
is
years?
Hall of Fame guy.
Yeah.
Hall of Fame executive, Hall of Fame guy, super nice guy. And I remember asking Bill, and I said, Bill, with the draft, I said, if there was one thing that you would teach a young guy to really learn and accept about the draft, he said, they've got to learn to accept, number one, that it's a percentage game. Because if you really believe kind of that mindset, oh, this guy's a Hall of Famer, Pro Bowler, da-da-da-da-da, he said, the chances, it's a percentage chance because, you're trying to forecast a player into a league that has not played in. So he said, you got to be careful there. He said, so you have to understand that it's a percentages game, and then you also have to be willing to admit a mistake so that you don't continue to make mistakes by propping up a pick that you've had in the past. And so I thought it was very revealing.
Jeff, the second comment you made, I think, is the difference between average and great GMs. I think great front office leaders have the confidence, conviction, and just the overall ability to admit mistakes. Humility, I think is the right word. To admit a mistake, not double down, and move on. And I think a lot of times where you see the teams kind of get in this cycle of, like a hamster on the wheel, not really making any progress, is unwilling to admit a mistake and say, oh, let's move on. I don't care where I drafted that guy. I don't care how that makes me look. We have to get better there, and let's go move on.
Prime example of that is San Francisco at the quarterback position the last few years, right?
It's a great example. And
I think they're the perfect example of a team that's doing things the right way and willing to admit mistakes. You compare their situation at quarterback with the Jaguars situation a few years ago where you had Blake Bortles and loved Blake, but you ended up passing up on franchise quarterbacks in drafts because you wanted to prop Blake Bortles up. And then once you released him, then you brought in Nick Foles, and then you thought Gardner Minshew was going to be the guy. I mean, so you ended up kind of losing opportunities on a Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes for this franchise that, if you understood that the draft was a percentages game and you could understand what was staring you in the face.
And understand you made a mistake. Okay.
And it's okay because it's a percentage game.
Everyone I had an owner, I was talking to an owner this year, and I won't say which one, but he said, listen, I'm less worried about if my GM and coach cut a high pick as long as they're going to the playoffs and competing for the Super Bowl, because the draft, it's a crapshoot. It's like you get some right, you get some wrong. The best of them do.
Now, the percentages are higher, the higher the pick is.
That's right.
And if you understand that, you're good.
Plenty ahead. We're back in a moment with Bucky Brooks joining us from Los Angeles. The Jags are celebrating their 30th season, and the time to get those season tickets, well, it's right now. Be at the bank for every touchdown. Secure your seats at jaguars.com/tickets or call 904-633-2000. Jaguars Happy Hour is brought to you by the St. Johns River Water Management District. Florida's water, it's worth saving.
What's the best part about lawn care during the winter? You can give it a rest. Lawns only need watering up to once a week. Really, that's it. Using less water means you're saving time and money that you can put towards something else. Before you run your sprinklers, remember, give it a rest and only water up to once a week. For more information, visit waterlessflorida.com.
The Jaguars bring performance, strength, and passion to every play. And you'll find the same when you bank with EverBank. Open an EverBank Performance Savings account and score serious savings. See what you could earn at everbank.com/Jaguars. EverBank, advantage you. Member FDIC and the official bank of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Hi, this is Walker Little from the Jacksonville Jaguars. If you need to make room to watch football in your home or need a place to park your boat or RV, store it at Atlantic Self Storage, the official storage partner of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Over 50 locations in Northeast Florida, free 24-hour access, month-to-month leases. They make storage easy. Go to AtlanticSelfStorage.com or call 877-WE-STORE to find out why they're Jacksonville's #1 pick for storage.
I'm John Davis, Secretary of the Florida Lottery, and I'm proud to lead an agency that is creating brighter futures for Florida students, families, and communities. As the primary funding source of the Bright Future Scholarship Program, the lottery has helped nearly 1 million students reach their dream of a post-secondary education. And we will continue to do our part to ensure that every student across this state is aware of these opportunities and has the resources needed to succeed. Because together, we can build a brighter future for all.
Don't make a bad call when it comes to servicing your home. Cooling off with a baby pool in the house to fix your air conditioning problem is a bad call. Trying to catch a wave in a flooded bathroom is a bad call. Using a burning electrical panel to make s'mores is a bad call. The next time something goes wrong, make a good call to Donovan.
Whether you need air, electric, or plumbing service, Donovan is always a good call. It's why we've been trusted by our customers for almost 40 years and why you can trust us to deliver fast, reliable service to your home. Donovan, always a good call.
Visit DonovanAC.com today.
There are those who wait for spring, and then there are Cadillac drivers who boldly inspire spring's arrival in stunning sedans poised to outrun winter, or in stylish SUVs. Bringing together design and performance with such exuberance, they make every day feel like that first warm day of the year. So this spring, don't wait. Be among those who inspire boldness in bloom at the Cadillac Move Up sales event. Visit your local Cadillac dealer today.
Jaguars Happy Hour brought to you by the St. Johns River Water Management District. Florida's water, it's worth saving. JP Shadrick, Jeff Lageman, Hall of Famer Tony Baselli. We're on 1010XL AM, Jaguars.com, Jaguars YouTube. It is draft night, the Duval Draft Party coming up at Everbank Stadium. Register at Jaguars.com/draft party if you haven't already. Should be a packed house. You'll be on the field tonight, and there's a big stage on the east sideline facing west, and plenty of special guests coming up this evening on stage. And Tony, I think you'll be out there, right?
I'll be on stage quite a few times tonight, yes. Talking to Doug Peterson. And then we got a couple legends up there. I think Leon Searcy, Paul Poslesny, and Josh Scobie. So Kai and I will be doing a little round table.
Scobie's like down that list a little bit. He'd
No,
be
he's
like,
not.
I'm kidding. Of course.
Scobie's the all-time leader.
Best kicker
point
in
leader.
Jaguars history, man.
All-time point leader.
Scobie was third place in the Baselli golf tournament the other week.
Yeah,
you know who was second place?
Who? You?
Yeah.
Yeah, but
you cheat. That's right. No, we
played
well.
It's because he had a bunch of ringers on his team. I gave him a good team.
I made birdie putts on the last 2 holes to get us in the second place.
And that's the only strokes
Let
that
me
they
ask you
used
a
of
question.
yours.
Did you do anything to get the ball on the green?
I did one time.
Chip
Ninth
shot.
hole. I
Chip
won't
shot.
get into it right now, but I've contributed
Nobody
one
cares.
10-yard
iron
chip.
shot. True. I just wanted to say I beat Scobie.
Yeah.
That was it. That
You
sounds
did.
pretty good to me.
And
You're
by
not
the way,
gonna
you
beat him
did.
one-on-one, by the way.
It was fair.
The one-on-one, he would crush
Well, it
you.
wasn't one-on-one.
Yeah.
So
it was team golf.
We won.
Josh Scobie is the best golfer that wore the teal and black.
Yeah,
so?
yes.
Yeah, probably so.
Yeah.
Christian Kirk's pretty good right now.
He's nowhere close
Yeah,
to
he's
Josh
not
Scobie.
Okay.
And Kirk is a good player, very good player. But Scobie, he shot like 64.
Come on.
Yeah.
Like he's a legitimate stick.
I used to do that back, when I was.
Did you?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
But he did it on 18 holes, not 9.
Oh.
Let's go to Los Angeles, California. Welcome in NFL Network analyst, Jaguars media analyst, and our good friend, Bucky Brooks. It is finally here, Bucky, at long last. All your mock drafts, all your position rankings, all that can go out the window starting tonight at 8 o'clock. Good evening.
What's up, guys? How's everything?
Bucky,
I'm excited to quit doing all these mock drafts and see where we're going to get.
Bucky, how many mock drafts did you do leading up to tonight?
I did 4.
Okay.
And it was really, really challenging to kind of put the names in order and kind of guess and speculate. And even now, hearing your conversation about the offensive tackles, I think it's really interesting to see what teams are going to decide, because the two strongest positions in the draft are offensive tackle and wide receiver. And normally when that happens, the demand, supply and demand, you typically go to with the premium position, which would be offensive tackle. So I would expect the offensive tackles to fly off the board first, then the wide receivers would probably fall into the second round where you see a bunch of wide receivers go. I don't think you'll see as many wide receivers go as many have speculated.
Bucky, everybody seems to think that Joe Alt is the best tackle, and after watching some of these guys, I would agree. Give me your next best two offensive tackles that are in this draft.
Man, you know, like it's so interesting because it kind of depends on what you're looking for. If you want like the bully on the block, like Talise Fuanga from Oregon State is one of those that kind of fits. The kid from Washington that you guys were talking about, he's probably one of the more versatile ones, can play anywhere on the line, can play outside or inside. He gives you kind of what you want. Olu Fashanu is probably the most talented of them all, but he also has maybe the most development to do to be an elite premier left tackle. J.C. Latham is a natural right tackle who's a mauler brawler at the point of attack. And then Amarius Mims is just a junkyard dog. I mean, he is big, he's physical, but he's only played like 8 or 9 games in college. So you don't know where he's going to be when he gets to the big boy league. But look, it's a very talented class.
Yeah, the last two guys that you mentioned, Latham and Mims, watching the film on those guys, and I know that Mims hasn't played very much and you had to watch a lot of film to actually see him play, but watching those two guys, they just make the position look effortless like this guy used to do, Bucky. And the crazy thing is that they were right tackles, but, I mean, I still see those guys as being just premier talents. I mean, if the Jaguars are looking to trade down one of those two guys, I would love to see them in teal.
Yeah, so here's the thing. I don't know if you're going to be able to trade down and hope that one of those guys get to you, because where the Jaguars are at, there's a bit of it in alley where you can see teams that go. Pittsburgh could take a tackle at 20. Miami is going to take an offensive lineman. It's probably going to be a center, but you just never know. They have to fix their offensive line. So you have to be careful if you're Jacksonville, trying to be cute and not just taking a player that is right there sitting in front of you. The guys that you mentioned, J.C. Latham and Marius Mims, they could be there, but there's some conversation that J.C. Latham could be a top 10 pick. You know, we just don't know, because with the tackle class, it's like going to the ice cream shop and trying to figure out which flavor you like. But all these
I
guys
hate that decision.
Are worthy.
Bucky, just sticking on the tackles just for a little bit longer. You know, a guy like Alt, ready-made, I mean, film's there, you know, size, all the things you want. Premier program, played against top talent. Which of the guys, though, do you think has the most upside? Because just because that individual played at a high level in college, as you know, sometimes those guys are capped out. And they'll be good pros, and I'm sure Alt's going to be a very good pro. And I'm not saying he is capped out at all, but who of the guys you just mentioned, who's the flyer that you might take and say, because this guy has extreme upside?
So if we're talking about upside, normally the upside is due to their athleticism, right? They're super athletic, but maybe they haven't put all the skills together when it comes to performance. I would say that it would be either Mims or Fashanu, and then you can throw in Latham, because they all are still kind of figuring it out while dominating people with their sheer talent. Maybe Mims, just because Mims only has like 8 or 9 games of film, and he is huge. And you know he played at a winning program. If you know anything about Georgia, they talk about bloody Tuesdays where they put the pads on and basically let the ones play against the ones all day. I think he has the ability to get really, really better as he gains more experience, and the refs are really going to help him at the next level.
Bucky Brooks with us from Los Angeles, California, NFL Network, Jaguars media analyst. Let's flip it around now, Bucky, to the cornerback position. This is one that has been mocked to the Jaguars, I think, more than any other in this first round at 17th overall. Is that, I know in your mocks at least you've had that position there. Is that still the feel for you? And what kind of window can you find at 17? 2, 3, 4 guys that could be there?
Well, look, I mean, a lot of it really just depends on what do the Jaguars want to do? What do they prioritize? Do they prioritize getting the defense up to snuff where the defense can be a top 10 defense, or do they want to put all their chips in and go say, hey, we're going to have an elite offense and we're going to outscore people, and then we'll play defense always with the lead? I would say that if they go cornerback, Terrion Arnold is going to be sitting there right in their face at 17. The thing about Arnold is versatile. He can play outside. He can play inside. High IQ player. Does a really good job of being nose-to-nose in press coverage, but he can play off. And I think when you hear Ryan Nielsen talk about how he wants to play and how they want to play, they want to look. They said nothing cheap and nothing deep. So they want to take away the layups, meaning don't want to give up the bubble screens and the quick routes that you give up when you normally back off of wide receivers. But then you want to have enough awareness to make sure that you always play top down. Very similar to how Arnold was asked to play in Alabama. I think he'll be fine there. Nate Wiggins is the next one to likely come off the board. Nate Wiggins is fast. He ran 4.2 at the combine. He's super athletic, easy mover when it comes to turns and transitions. The one thing about Nate Wiggins isn't a super physical guy, and he's not a great tackler. And I think in our league now, if you can't tackle, you're going to have a hard time being able to stay on the field because you become a bit of a liability. Can he become a better tackler? Maybe. Sometimes peer pressure can kind of make guys kind of stick their nose in, but I don't know. But he's super talented. He's one of the best athletes that you'll find on the field. This guy has the potential to be a lockdown corner on the perimeter. The other names that we'll mention, Kool-Aid McKinstry is intriguing. He and Arnold obviously play in the same system. He was the cast me out. Arnold surpassed him this year based on play. But Kool-Aid McKinstry is a really good player, high IQ, can play a bunch of different techniques, understands how to play the game the right way, and all those guys are going to be good teammates. And then the last one, and maybe one of the guys that is really intriguing to me, is Cooper DeJean from Iowa. The reason Cooper DeJean is intriguing is because everyone's going to try and kick him inside and say, oh, he's a nickel, he's a safety, and those things. But if you really dig down and do the research, this is a premier track athlete. When he was in high school at Iowa, he has played outside and played really, really well. Super smart, very active and productive. Also gives you something in the return game if you need it. This is the Swiss Army knife that everyone kind of wants in that defensive lineup. It's just, are you willing to pull the trigger, and do you have a plan to get him on the field and allow him to do all the special things that he can do?
Yeah, and the hard part, I think, with some of these top corners that you're talking about is that not a lot of them played press man. And, you know, every coach in the National Football League wants to have a corner that can play press man. You know, that's the way that you can end up doing other things on the other side to be a little bit more creative. And I would totally agree with you, Bucky, about Wiggins, about he's not very physical at the point, and I'm a big believer that you can't coach physicality. So I don't know if he's a good fit, but it's going to be interesting to see because we talked about the draft and everything as a percentage game, and it's forecasting and it's kind of projecting. Man, this corner position, there's a lot of projecting going on just because of the style of play that these top corners played in college.
So because of that, we talked about playing the percentages. Jeff, I think this is a year where you have to double down at a position. This is a year where you may need to take two. And look, let's be honest. I'm a judge the draft. I'm a grade the draft based on the first 3 rounds because those are the guys that typically comprise your team. Anything that you get 4 through 7 is bonus. So to me, given how the style of play is going to be drastically different than it's been in the past, I think you need to invest in the position and kind of get 2 of them. And so we just talked about those 4 at the top. Maybe in the second or the third round, you have to begin to think about some other names. So if we're talking about in the second round, Max Melton from Rutgers is someone that's of interest. Kamari Lassiter from Georgia is another player that could kind of be in that. If you're talking about a pure nickel corner, Mikey Sandstrill from Michigan is in play. In the third round, you can hear names like TJ Tampa. You can hear Renardo Green from Florida State. So there's some guys that can come in and play, but I don't think the Jaguars can mess around and think that they're going to solve their issue by getting a guy in the 5th, 6th, or 7th round. I think you have to really invest in position if you're going to play as much press man coverage that the defensive coordinator Ryan Nielsen has been talking about.
Bucky, you talked about doubling down on a position group. What's your thoughts on it? And I'm going to go back to where we started this on the offensive line, because I think we all talked about last year that this Jaguar offensive line had to get bigger, get more physical if they wanted to play the style that they were trying to play last year. This is a deep draft at the offensive line. Is this a year that if you really wanted to go remake and rebuild that offensive line, that you could in the first 3 rounds with this offensive line class?
Yes. but you got to be committed to doing it. And you have to be willing to take the slings and arrows that may come from the people that are saying, oh, you need to get a wide receiver early. Oh, we need to get this. If you're going to be a team that really wants to play and control the line of scrimmage, you got to invest in it. And you got to invest in it every year. And so if it's an offensive tackle in the first round, it's coming back, getting a guard in the second round, then you do that. It really depends on how the Jaguars view the strength of their team and how they want the strength of the team to be. Meaning, do you want to be an offensive team or do you want to be a defensive team? Because if it's an offensive team, then you load up on offense. You make sure that 16 has everything that he needs. He's protected in the passing game. You can run the football effectively, and you have enough weapons on the outside to allow him to do his thing. And there's nothing wrong with that. We've seen teams do it. You guys were talking about Bill Polian. Bill Polian, 2 Super Bowl contenders in Buffalo and Indianapolis playing that way. It really is about the commitment that the team has to make, and this is who we are, this is who we're going to be, and then the draft picks have to follow that philosophy.
All right, Bucky, so the wide receiver position, not many people believe that would be the 17th overall pick, but you never know. If you were picking at 17, give me a couple names that may be available that you would be interested in.
I'll be honest with you. Like, I know people talk about the wide receiver position. At 17, the only guy that I would be comfortable taking would be Brian Thomas Jr. from LSU. The rest of the wide receivers that we're talking about, A.D. Mitchell, Xavier Worthy, Xavier Legette, anybody that we put in there, to me, they're more top of the second round type talents, which is fine. But what that means is those guys are solid starters, but I don't anticipate them being superstars. At 17, Brian Thomas, to me, is the only one. If it's not one of the big three, then it has to be him. And I would say the difference between Brian Thomas and some of those other guys, big, fast, and physical, super talented. When you talk to the LSU coaches, they say, man, he is as gifted a wide receiver as we've seen come through these doors. Last year, the light came on and he played to his talents. And so you got to continue to be on him to maximize the talent that he has. But he's a guy that's worthy. If you really ask me where the sweet spot should be, it should be offensive tackle or corner at 17. Your wide receiver should come in the second round. When you're picking 48, I think 48 is going to put you in a position to get the players that I think are best fits for what they have. Ricky Pearsall would be really intriguing to me. Roman Wilson would be really intriguing to me. And I'm saying this based on what was lacking, I guess, last year in terms of like where did it go wrong when we had all the injuries. I think Doug Peterson has made a concerted effort to say, I want professional, high IQ players that can be interchangeable. And when it comes to playing multiple spots that are reliable, dependable, and consistent. And so to me, Ricky Pearsall fits the bill. Ladd McConkey, if he's there, he fits the bill. You want someone that when you call the play, all the things are going to be lined up and they're going to be exactly where they need to be so the quarterback can have the trust to let the ball go. So to me, it has to be that. They don't need a high-end number one. They need consistent, reliable pass catchers that can get open and be exactly where they need to be each and every down.
And loved Ladd McConkey, the Georgia wide receiver. And the one position we really haven't mentioned because we were kind of started this show about this team getting more physical on the offensive and defensive lines. Bucky, the defensive tackle position in this draft, when you look at the top two guys, one at Illinois, the other at Texas, they're good football players, but they don't have a lot of length. That's got to, I think, affect them in this draft, doesn't it?
No, I think Brian Murphy's going to go within the top 10. I think the sweet spot for him might be 8 to the Atlanta Falcons. Johnny Newton could be sitting there because he can go anywhere in that first-round range. He could be there for us at 17. He could go later in the bottom of the first round. And then there's a bit of a drop-off. And so the defensive tackle position is one that you really have to have like an eye on when the run goes on, like those defensive players. They're saying this year maybe only 11 or 12 defensive players go in the first round. So somewhere in the second round it's going to flip and there's going to be a run on defensive players. Two guys to watch if you're talking about Jacksonville, Braden Fisk from Florida State by way of Western Michigan. Look, active, high motor player,
good player,
physical, athletic. Look, man, he is an all-day sucker. The motor runs hot from the beginning of the game to the end of the game. You love that part of it. Brandon Dorlus from Oregon, another player that can come inside, physical, super athletic. On tape, you see those guys run to the ball. They hustle. They play at a high level. To me, those are the guys because it's a huge drop-off when it comes to defensive tackles. Maybe 4 or 5 guys that you feel really good about. After that, you're kind of throwing darts. They're edge rushers that are available, but some of those guys are more situational players, not guys that I would say are every down guys that are going to be stars outside of the top three that everyone talks about: Dallas Turner, Layatu Latu, and Jared Verse from Florida State.
Bucky Brooks, NFL Network, Jaguars Media. 15 seconds, Bucky. What is your pick?
They're going to take one of the corners. I think it'll end up being Terran Arnold or Quinyon Mitchell, one of those guys, if they're available.
Thanks a lot, Bucky. Joining us from Bucky Brooks from Los Angeles. We're back with our final thoughts after this. It's Jaguars Happy Hour, brought to you by the St. Johns River Water Management District. Florida's water, it's worth saving.
What's the best part about lawn care during the winter? You can give it a rest. Lawns only need watering up to once a week. Really, that's it. Using less water means you're saving time and money that you can put towards something else. Before you run your sprinklers, remember, give it a rest and only water up to once a week. For more information, visit waterlessflorida.com.
The Jaguars bring performance, strength, and passion to every play. And you'll find the same when you bank with EverBank. Open an EverBank Performance Savings account and score serious savings. See what you could earn at everbank.com/Jaguars. EverBank, advantage you. Member FDIC and the official bank of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Hey Florida, this is Luke Fortner, center for the Jacksonville Jaguars. We all know the rush of a good game, but there's no winning with aggressive driving on our roads. It's all about strategy and control. Embrace the space with the driver in front of you, go the speed limit, and use that blinker. These are the moves that make us all champions of the road. Target Zero is our game plan for safer roads and is a testament to our teamwork and dedication. Join me and let's get everyone home safely every single day.
Get out and go to the spring sales event at your local Ford dealer. Don't miss low financing or big cash back on a large selection of Ford trucks or SUVs. Go start the job and finish it with a great deal on America's best-selling trucks, Ford F-150 and Super Duty. Or bring the whole crew and hit the road, go off-road, or take the back roads in a new Ford Bronco, Bronco Sport, or Explorer. All designed to keep you going. Get out and go to the spring sales event at your local Ford dealer today. Based on 1977 to 2023 CY total sales.
Since 2014, there's been only one official home builder of the Jaguars, Dreamfinders Homes. With quality-built homes and a speedy move-in process, we're in 20-plus communities in the best locations across Northeast Florida. Dreamfinders Homes is everywhere you want to live. So get off the sidelines, Jags fans, and get into the game. Let Dreamfinders help you navigate your home purchase and offer great interest rates. Visit DreamfindersHomes.com for all your move-in ready homes and step up your game.
Don't get sacked by a no-name propane rookie at Jacksonville. Draft an all-star and switch to AmeriGas, the official propane provider of the Jacksonville Jaguars and the homes and businesses who know it was always the Jags. Show off your Duval pride at your next tailgate with a Jaguars grill tank from AmeriGas. To find an AmeriGas exchange location near you or to order a propane fill-up for your home or business, visit AmeriGas.com/Jacksonville-Jaguars or call 844-PRO-JAGS.
Jaguars Happy Hour brought to you by the St. Johns River Water Management District. Florida's water, it's worth saving. JP Shadrick with Jeff Lageman, Hall of Famer Tony Boselli. The 2024 NFL Draft, we're closing in about 3 hours and 7 minutes until they at least start it. And then probably another 10 minutes until the pick. And then I guess the Jags will pick, 10 o'clock-ish?
Well, I mean, if everyone takes 10 minutes, which they never all take 10 minutes, it's 170 minutes, so it's almost 2 hours and 45 minutes after it starts. So if that's the case, it's going to be closer to 11.
Yeah.
If you do the math. But usually there's always a couple teams that, are quick on the draw and it goes quicker.
I hope there's a few teams that are quick on the draw.
I hope 16 teams are quick on the draw.
Yeah, but you remember, go back to the day back when they gave them more time to
15 minutes.
Yeah, it was painfully slow. And then finally, because of TV, they said, all right, look, we got to make this thing move along a little bit. I think they could even make it move along a little bit better and shorten the amount of time.
Make it like 7 minutes or something.
Yeah, make it 7 minutes. That's a good number.
I remember at the draft in 95 that you said I did not have to wait very long, which you're correct, only the second pick. But going
Who
into
was the first pick, by the way? Kerry Collins?
No, Kajana Carter.
Kajana Carter.
The other
right.
Penn State kid.
That's right.
But going into the draft, Tom had told me, 3 weeks before, he's like, we're picking you. They called me the night before. I mean, unless the Bengals picked me instead of Kajana, I was going to Jacksonville. And that's what I thought. So Kajana gets picked in like 2 minutes. I'm like, okay, good. This is me done. Tom waited 11 and a half minutes before he picked up the phone to call me and say it was a pick. I'm like, what were you waiting for? Like, I thought this was a done deal. And to this day, he just enjoyed the fact that I had to sit there for that long and wait. I think he did it just all on purpose, just to. Well, I think he used Jeff's strategy, marketing strategy. Remember, every year on the draft,
more time on the clock.
We talk about it every
exposure.
year, and Jeff says the same thing. Like,
We're selling hats.
If he was a good GM, he'd be like, "We're taking all 10 minutes. Our logo's going to be on the.
It's free
television.
exposure.
We're selling jerseys.
Selling jerseys, baby."
By the way, do you know I'm responsible for the Jaguars drafting him?
Are you really?
I am.
I can't wait to hear this.
Do you want to hear the story?
I can't wait.
I'll tell you real quick. They were either going to take a tackle.
Mm-hmm.
In the draft, which they did, and a free agent D-end, or get a
which would have been,
or a free agent tackle, which would have been his teammate
Jeff Griswold.
And then take a defensive end, probably been Kevin Carter's. Carter. With the pick, and they chose the opposite.
This is what we're left with.
Or
so you're stuck with us, JP.
Great,
Jeff. It might be the opposite. They might have decided they were taking me. And then they went after Jeff in free agency. So I might be responsible for you being here.
You might be right.
Yeah, strike that, reverse it.
By the way, Criswell just went into the Graceland College Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
How many people do you know that played at Graceland that played in the NFL? Not
and
many, right?
And had a successful
He
career.
was a good player.
Yeah.
He just didn't like playing Bruce Smith.
Who did?
Not many.
Tony did.
Not many did.
Couple minutes left. Who's your pick?
I don't like to make predictions.
No, what's your pick?
What a really good player.
Come on.
A really good player.
Come on.
You want me to do it?
Yeah, Tony, please.
I would pick an offensive lineman. I think they pick a corner. And one of the corners that Bucky said,
Quinyon Mitchell,
the
Cooper
kid from
DeJean,
Toledo,
Arnold.
Arnold. I mean, one of those guys. They're going to take – I think that's where they go. I think that's where all the smoke is right now. I think there is fire there. I would take an offensive lineman. I would this would be the draft because of the depth and the talent. I would double down on that position, and I would build a world-class offensive line in front of Trevor Lawrence.
I don't have anything against what he says, and
that's not taking away anything of the group of guys here, but it is what it is. I mean, where we are as an organization, and
especially if you're about to re-sign or extend the quarterback at some point.
You're going to pay him $50 million. Yeah. Go build that line.
And here's why I have a hard time saying, okay, here's who I'm going to pick. I mean, they're picking at 17. They're not picking at 1, 2, or 3. I mean, who's available? Is Latu there? Which I love him.
Would you take Latu if he was there?
I love him. I mean, the only thing that he's got negative-wise is that he had a neck issue, but he's one of the best pass rushers that I've watched in the last couple of years.
He is very. I watched him because my son-in-law played against him last year. And he's a good player.
He makes it look effortless.
He's good.
He's better than Verse and better than Dallas Turner in Alabama, who, by the way, doesn't have a lot of size to him, but he's athletic.
I like Verse, though, too. Verse is
he's
a physical guy.
Really physical. And love the guy Fisk that Bucky was talking about. By the way, if
second rounder, maybe?
Go back and watch some Florida State film. Look for number 55. That guy can play. Really play well. The one guy I think that's going to drop in this draft is the Fuanga tackle from Oregon State. I don't believe he's got the feet to play or to be drafted real high.
Gates open tonight at Everbank Stadium, 7 o'clock. The in-stadium show begins with Kai Stevens about 7:15. 7:30 pre-draft show on Jaguars.com and Jags YouTube. Thanks to our entire crew in the studio out here on set as well at the stadium. For Tony Baselli, Jeff Lageman, Brian Sexton, and Bucky Brooks, I'm JP Shadrick. Thank you for listening. It's Jaguars Happy Hour, presented by the St. Johns River Water Management District. Florida's water, it's worth saving.